Well, hello and welcome to the Google Digital Garage. My name is Daryl and I'm going to be delivering today's session, which is track website traffic in Google Analytics. A little bit about myself. I come from an incredibly diverse background within sales, recruitment, hospitality, learning and development, and of course within tech. But I dedicate the majority of my time to help close the digital skills gap that is so prevalent in our world today through amazing initiatives just like this. And I've been very, very fortunate to help many businesses over the course of the last few years to learn more about how can they learn more about their customers through analytics itself. But I'm not here alone. We're very, very fortunate to have Alison with us here today, who is going to be, if you're viewing us on a laptop or a desktop, just on the right-hand side, and she'll have a little blue spanner next to her name. Alison is also a Google Digital Garage trainer and will be helping us with any questions or any queries throughout today's session. If you'd like to get involved with today's chat, you would be required to have a YouTube account, relatively easy to get set up. And once you're all set up, you'll be able to fire over those questions to myself and Alison, and we look forward to any engagement. Next up, if you'd like to have the closed captions for today's session, all you need to do is hover over the video, click onto the gear cog, which is the settings, and then click onto CC, and you would be able to have the subtitles to follow along with today's session. So hopefully you get involved, but without further ado, we've only got a short amount of time, so let's go ahead and dive into what we'll be discussing over the next 10 or should we say 14 minutes. Is first and foremost, we're going to dive into understanding what is Google Analytics. What is there rumor of some new analytics? Maybe there's something up in the air. We need to learn more about what analytics do we need to use moving forward. Then we're going to go ahead and jump into the first part, which is understanding where your users are coming from. So building the foundations about what is Google Analytics, what is the possible change that's going to happen very, very shortly. And then we're going to dive into the first part of your journey of normally looking to find more about who your customers are. So first, let's jump into understanding of what is Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is an indispensable part of your everyday marketing strategy. And Google Analytics will help you track the performance of your adverts, of your website traffic, and your general online activity. It gives you key insights on how you can improve your ads and get the most out of your budget, or improve your website and understand more about where your traffic's coming from and how can we learn more about if that traffic is coming from there, what do we need to do and how can we optimize that moving forward. But website traffic is a key indicator of success, and you can see where customers are coming from, where visitors are coming from, and what they are doing on your site. So now we understand a little bit more about what Google Analytics is. I haven't seen any hellos within the chat, but if you are currently watching live right now, please go ahead and say hello to Alison within the chat, and of course to me, and let us know if you are here, where you're joining in from, and let us know if you are currently using Google Analytics with a simple yes, I'm using Analytics, or no, I'm not using Google Analytics. Pop it into the chat. We would love to know. If, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into understanding more about Google Analytics. And if you have any questions throughout today's session, pop it into the chat. But let's first jump into something what we need to talk about, which is Universal Analytics versus Google Analytics 4. Before we dive into understanding the data that Google Analytics can bring us, we need to understand what is the current situation. Well, there is an older version which was called Google Universal Analytics. And if you are currently watching this or even watching the recording, you have probably known about Google Analytics. If you've used it before, you may be using something called UA, which stands for Universal Analytics. Today, we'll be looking at something called Google Analytics 4, which is the change that will be happening inevitably with everybody, regardless if you're using Google Analytics before or just starting. If you're just starting, fantastic. You're going to go ahead and jump into something called Google Analytics 4. In order for you to get started, there is a link that's on screen, and I'm pretty sure Alison will pop the link into the chat, or you can just simply jump into Google and type in Google Analytics, but the link is going to be analytics.google.com. Once you jump onto that website, you will then create a profile and add in your details as you would with any other platform. But first and foremost, the difference between Universal and Google Analytics 4, there's a key differences. First and foremost, we have something called a user. So let's clarify what is a user. But a user is a person who has visited your website. So when you are looking at analytics overall, when you see the word user, that is going to be a person that has visited your site. But then you have something called a user property. Now, when it comes to the user property and those properties that you see on the far right-hand side within yellow next to the user is going to be a characteristic of that person who has visited your site. And that characteristic could be something like the location or perhaps their language preference. All this key information is really, really important, but user is a person who has visited your site. A user property, which is the blocks in yellow, is going to be a characteristic of that person who has visited your site, like a location or a language. Then we have something called a session, which is the blue little blocks in the far left for UA. But when it comes to Google Analytics 4, it's going to be coming down to the page events or events in general. But a session event is an action that your user will take on the website. For example, if they are viewing a page, or if they're adding something to their basket, or are they checking out, or are they simply filling out a form. Last but not least, we have something called a parameter, which is going to be in the yellow boxes on the far right next to those two events. A parameter is any type of extra information about an event. For example, if the event is a checkout, the currency would be the parameter. If the event is adding something to their basket, the parameter would be the number of items. So again, lots of information, but when we start approaching it from different fundamentals, which is the user, a person that's visited my website, a user property, which is a characteristic of that user, a session, which is the time that they've spent on your website, and that is going to be a session. And then we're going to get a parameter, which is any extra information. So a little bit more information about Google Analytics 4. Google Analytics 4 is a new version of UA, which is Universal Analytics, which was launched in 2020. If you have started using Google Analytics since then this will be your default experience, which will be Google Analytics 4. However, if you have been using it prior, you will be familiar with something called UA. Now, the main update is that Google Analytics 4 is more intelligent. Of course, that is the update with more machine learning at its core to give you some insights, trends, and predictions, and you can get a complete understanding of your customers and the devices and the platforms, even via their web and app interactions together. So basically a cohesive understanding of who your customers are. Now that we have a snapshot into Google Analytics 4, let's jump into what the interface is going to look like. Now, so far, it's only a few minutes in, but if you're watching this right now and if you have any questions or queries, this is a completely non-judgmental environment, and we welcome any questions or any queries, any hellos, any emojis. So please do get involved. This is what myself and Alison really look forward to, is your engagement, because this is what these sessions will bring it to life with in order to help you. So let's jump into the interface around Google Analytics 4. Now, before we get a big breath in and go, wow, Daryl, I just see numbers and I see pie bar graphs and I just see just a whole lot of numbers and graphs. At first, it's kind of like learning a completely new language. But when we break it down to the fundamentals, it becomes less overwhelming. So let's park the big numbers and all the graphs on the far right-hand side and just park that for now. And let's focus on the dashboard. In other words, the navigation bar where you're going to start to find that information. So on the far left-hand side, you have a reports snapshot, real time, and then something called life cycle, which will give you 4 different tabs, which is going to be acquisition, engagement, monetization, and retention. So if you're new to Google Analytics 4, this is the first place that we need to reference, because this is going to be the 4 main areas of reporting for you to understand more about your customers. Yes, it can be incredibly overwhelming when you first learn about Google Analytics and you've got all this information, but let's break it down to what information are you looking for. So first and foremost, acquisition. Well, let's give it a little bit of body language to that. In terms of acquisition would be, where are your customers coming from? So let's go ahead and break it down and simply get less overwhelmed with all this information and jump into the 4 main areas of reporting. So all of Google Analytics and all the groups really group down to these 4 main areas to help you answer the questions that you are looking for. So we have number 1, which is acquisition. And essentially that is, where are your customers coming from? Are they coming from organic search? Are they coming from paid search? Are they coming from social media? Are they coming from referral websites? There are so many different places where your traffic can come from, but this is the area that we need to find. Next up, we've got engagement. Now, once they have arrived on your website, how are they performing? How are they performing? I mean, how are they behaving? That is the word I'm looking for. Are they spending more time on a particular page? Are they particularly looking or spending more time on a more page than another? Next up, we've got monetization, which is going to be, how are users spending their money? So if you have an e-commerce store and you're selling lots of different products and services, how many of your visitors are actually purchasing those particular products? And we can really start to understand where the traffic is coming from, and then where are they spending the money once they join the website. And then last but not least, a very commonly overlooked tab, which is going to be the retention, which is, are users returning? I'm pretty sure that you're watching right now. If you have a business, you want to know, we don't just want to keep getting traffic and keep getting traffic. We want to get traffic, but we want to get returning traffic. So we need to understand more about the retention and understand more about our customers. Are they leaving reviews? And so much more information. Now, of course, we can go into detail with this, but what we're going to do today within this very short training, we're going to jump into the first one, which is going to be the acquisition, or where are my customers coming from? So once we jump into this part, what we've covered so far is, what is Google Analytics? It was UA, Universal Analytics. There is a change. We're going to become Google Analytics 4. Now, when you do that change from UA to GA4, the historical data will not be transferred. However, you will be starting from scratch. So if you're watching this right now, please make sure you look at how you can transfer over to Google Analytics 4. But let's look at the acquisition reports to understand more about where your customers are coming from. And I think this is going to be at the forefront of your mind when you first dive into analytics. So let's look at a little bit of a funnel. We have getting a snapshot of where your overall traffic is coming from, which is going to be the overall traffic acquisition. Next up, we're going to have page traffic, which is going to be get more specific page data, as understanding, okay, now that we know overall where our customers are coming from, maybe YouTube, maybe Instagram, maybe paid search, now let's try to find out where are they spending their time. Once they've come from YouTube and they've arrived, what is happening within the websites? Within the pages on my website, what is the traffic looking like? Are they spending more time on a specific page? Next up, page visits, in diving deeper into what's happening on those pages. Are they clicking on an icon? Are they clicking on a button more than another specific button? And so much more information. Next up, landing page visits, in terms of understanding where are people coming from, first and foremost, but what page do they land on? Are they landing on a specific product page? Are they landing on a contact me page? Are they landing on the home page? But where are they coming from? So in order to track your website, again, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into those 4 main areas of reporting, and we're going to jump into the acquisition tab. Once we click onto the acquisition tab, they're going to click onto traffic acquisition, which will then give you an idea of where that traffic is coming from. In order, organic, direct, undersigned, displayed, and paid search, but a quick overview of where that traffic is coming from. Furthermore, we now want to understand the website traffic and where it's coming from. So maybe you got loads of traffic coming to the contact page. How do we understand more about that specific page? Then we're going to click onto engagement and click onto page and screens. Once we click onto that, we can then understand where are they spending their time on this particular page when they do visit. Once you've understood the page traffic, you can take it even further and find out where the page visits are coming from. In order to do so, there is a very common icon, which will be a plus sign that you'll see happening on screen right now. Within the area, you can start to add a column, and you will select acquisition and then a medium in terms of the source. So what you're going to find out is you've got page on specific pages, how much time they're spending on the home page, but those people that were spending time on the home page, where did they come from? In order to do that, all we need to do is click onto the plus sign, session acquisition, and then select the source, which is the session, we're going to tongue twist that, session source medium. Next up, we're going to jump into where are your landing page visits coming from. To be a lot more specific, let's look at how we can find landing page data. But the landing page, remember, is where they click onto a link and they land on your page. And this is going to be the first page that people will arrive on. Either they click through the website or a link on an email, or they clicked on a bio within your social media, or wherever you've created that link. We need to understand where is the customer being taken to and how much time they're spending time on it. Right, I'm running tight of time. We've got 1 minute left, so we need to jump into the last one, which is really about who are our users. And to understand more about our users, we want to click onto acquisition, and then we want to click onto user acquisition. Now, once you do that, you can understand more about who is your user. Are they coming from the United Kingdom? Are they coming from China? Are they coming from the United States? And so much more information. But this was a snapshot into tracking your traffic within Google Analytics. It's over to you to switch over to GA4, which is Google Analytics 4. Find the 3 sources of website for your traffic, and we wish you all the best. If you'd like to learn more, make sure you click in the link in the description below to learn more about the Google Digital Garage and maybe get some more understanding around Google Analytics. But a big thank you to you, and a big thank you to Alison for moderating today's chat. But without further ado, look after yourself, look after each other, and we'd say bye for now.